Hi guys, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us again for our Paying You First, Profit First Approach module. Okay, Profit First was a book written by Mike Michalowicz and which structured everything around why it's most important to pay you first and not be last. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into that. So my name is Leilani. I am CEO of B Chic LLC and the B Chic Retail Group. Been in an e-commerce business for the last 14 years. The last year and a half, going on 2 years, we have dived into also gaining government contracts. And through my journey, I have learned not to put myself last. And what do I mean? I mean paying myself. Okay. As entrepreneurs, we often think about all the other expenses previous and then think about whatever's left over as paying ourselves. And where we're going with that today is that's a little backwards thinking, because we didn't go into business to work for free. We went into business to pay ourselves, replace our income, and live the life of our dreams. Okay. So with that said, what we are covering is in 3 parts. The first part will be why embracing the profit first approach is your true roadway to financial satisfaction. Okay. We're also going to be talking about how to allocate profits and addressing your debt. Most people who've gone into business for themselves have some debt, and that's okay. Debt can be seen as good or bad. I like to say it, if you have gone into debt to build your business and you've been strategic about it, it's good debt. And then we're going to also go over common objections and myths, because there are a lot of myths around why paying yourself first is not feasible. So we'll be covering those. Sam Levinson says, don't watch the clock, do what it does and keep going. This is relevant because especially when it comes down to paying yourself, sometimes it can feel like this is not enough money to live. This is not happening fast enough. I'm not going to be able to make it. And just stop watching the clock. Stop comparing your time and your presence to everyone else and just keep doing what a clock does. Keep going. So the traditional formula, which is the way most people, most entrepreneurs, most startup companies run their finances or run how to pay themselves, is that they'll take their sales, right? And they say minus their expenses, so inventory, rent, utilities, payroll, it equals profit, right? So what sales minus expenses equal profit. This is the traditional method, right? It makes sense. So if you have sales, you need to pay your expenses, right? You got to make sure everyone gets paid and everything gets paid on time and you're reinvesting back in your business, all that stuff, right? What I'm here to tell you is there are pitfalls to the traditional method. First of all, it is reactive, it is not proactive, okay? You are just sitting there waiting to see what's left over, okay? If you have your sales, so you sold your widget for $10 and you paid $2 for it, okay? And you're like, okay, well, I paid $2 for this widget. I'm going to go ahead and get another widget for $2. So now from that $10, automatically $4 is going back into product reinvestment. And then there's the gas, the place you had to pay in order to sell it, or if you're selling it online, commissions, postage, packaging, all of that goes around selling your particular product. That is reactive. Okay. Proactive means that you are making a strategic decision around your purchases. Okay. And then what ends up happening is you go into survivor mode, right? And survivor mode just means that you're only paying yourself enough to get by if you're paying yourself anything at all. Okay. And by working that reactive method, there's no guarantee you'll get compensation, because if it's sales minus expenses, but your expenses equal your sales, guess what? There is no profit. You are last in line to get compensated. All right. That leads to a lack of cash reserves. And then what happens? Pitfalls, unexpected challenges and downturns are going to happen. I've said previously, I do not promise much. What I will promise you is there will be downturns and there will be challenges, okay? And if you don't have enough cash reserves separated, you could get hurt, by those downturns. Maybe not physically, but financially. And then what it ends up leading to a reactive method, or the traditional method, I should say, which is reactive, it leads to inconsistent profitability. All right. There's too much instability and there's too much uncertainty. You can't get banks to lend you money because you're too inconsistent. You have money, a lot of money coming in one month and none coming in another. And so you're struggling around trying to figure out how to float yourself that particular red month. And then what ends up happening is that you cannot reinvest without a clear return on investment, right? So all of this is the traditional method. The traditional method, which was, what was it, guys? Sales minus expenses equals profit. Well, guess what? This is the traditional method right here. This roller coaster right here. Making money, go down. Making money again, go super down. Making money, and you just do this. You do this. Okay. Emma Watson, Hermione Granger, Harry Potter. It's not the absence of fear, it's overcoming it, right? So this is relevant to what we're talking about, the profit first approach, is because most people fear paying themselves first because they're thinking of where that money needed to be spent elsewhere, right? Get over the fear, right? Get over it, overcome it, because paying yourself first is why we're doing what we're doing, or why we should be doing what we're doing. So let's reverse the equation, okay? And this is the profit first principle. So if the traditional method is sales minus expenses equals profit, let's reverse it. It's sales minus profit equals expenses. What that does, it is leads you to a proactive probability mindset, okay? Profit is not an afterthought. It is what we're doing. What's the purpose of why we go into business, right? And when you have this profit first principle, it's taking Parkinson's law and making sure it's intentionally working for you. Now, Parkinson's law is, if there's an empty space, it shall be filled. Okay. Well, this extends into every facet of your life. If you have money just sitting in an account, it will be spent, right? If you have, it's almost like Murphy's law, right? What can go bad will go bad. Well, Parkinson's law is, what if there's an empty space, it shall be filled. And when you're talking about finances and you're talking about money and you're talking about paying yourself, if you don't have a plan for that money, and if it has not been spent, it will be spent unintentionally by you. Okay. Trying to make sure I'm saying this the right way to drive the point home. My son, right? So I have a teenage son, and we're trying to build up his awareness around saving his money, and his first thought is, okay, I got my job, I just got paid, I got to get gas in my car, I got to pay my car insurance, I got to make sure that I have, I'm going out with my friends these days, and I want to go and buy whatever thing that he's been eyeballing, since last paycheck, right? And what we're telling him is, you need to save a little money away, because you're talking about you want to get a new car. You're talking about you want to go to spring break with your friends. You have all these grand plans, but if you don't have any money saved up to do it, none of those plans are coming to fruition, right? So we told him, spend your money, but spend it towards savings. And so we sat down, we did his budget, and we said, as soon as you get paid, instead of putting gas in your car and paying your car insurance and do all this other stuff, take $50 and spend it to your savings account. You didn't decide to save it, you spent it, because savings is an expense. So we had him change that mindset of saying that savings was optional. No, savings was a bill, right? That needed to be paid first. And so he went and he would go and he would save that money into an account. And hopefully he keeps on doing it, because this is a habit forming, right? But profit first is kind of the same principle. So what you're doing is, it's not an afterthought. It's something, as soon as you have a sale, a part of that becomes profit. And then the expenses come out from the aftermath, Okay. Um, and by doing this, it's going to ensure business longevity, right? Because it's creating that safety net for yourself. So you're able to withstand the pitfalls, you're able to withstand the challenges that happen in business, the downturns. Um, and then, it's simple and tangible, right? Benefits without needing advanced financial knowledge. You do not need to be an accountant to figure this one out. You have a sale for $10 and $1 goes towards profit. Okay. It's not something that you need to be a genius to figure out. Walt Disney says the way to get started is to quit talking and to begin doing. I love this quote because this extends not just to what we're talking about in the profit first approach. Okay. So, pretty much in the profit first approach is just saying stop talking about paying yourself and do it. Right. So, stop saying that you're going to take a percentage out and you never do. Just go and do it without thinking. Don't put too much thought into it. Make a 2-second decision and take profit from your sale. Right. But this goes so much further than anything else. This goes into starting business. That's why you guys are here right now watching me do this workshop, because you decided that you were going to stop talking and begin doing. And right now, you are getting set up. You are getting your resources together. You are setting yourself up for success in either launching your business or growing your business, or maybe you decided you've been in business for a couple of years and you just really want a solid foundation. You took the steps, you stopped the talk, and you're walking the walk. So congratulations and thank you, Walt Disney. Okay, so the importance of paying yourself. Okay, it's valuing your effort and your investment. Okay, so it's almost like personal recognition. You've sold something for $10 and automatically you're paying yourself $1. You know, it's recognizing your efforts, right? It's motivating you to keep going. And it's kind of eliminating your risk a little. There's this one thing when I go to Las Vegas, I go to Las Vegas quite a bit for events and stuff around business. I don't really go to gamble, but when I do, I usually put $100 down on the poker table. I like Let It Ride. I like Pai Gow Poker. I'll put $100 on the table. And, one of the things I always say is, okay, well, I'm going to play. If I lose 100, fine, I lost 100, right? But the moment I gain 100, I'm out. It's so funny. I have this thing. I just don't keep going. I'm like, oh, I got my 100. Okay, I'm going to keep going, right? So I kind of think about if you make a sale and you put $1 away, it's just securing your risk, right? Because especially if you spent $1 on the item and you paid yourself $1 back, at this point you're playing with house money, right? So it's risk compensation. That is a really, so when you're paying yourself first, it's a real clear business health indicator as well. Because if you're able to pay yourself, right, that means your business is doing pretty well. When I was going into business, back in 2010, one of the things that I would consistently hear is, are you paying yourself? How much are you making? Are you replacing your income? You're able to do this full time, so you must be doing it pretty well. People were gauging the success of my business based on if I was able to maintain myself, pay and maintain myself. Isn't that funny? It has nothing to do about the product I'm offering, had nothing to do with how long I've been in business, none of that had anything to do with. People were basing the success of my company based on if I was able to live a healthy lifestyle. Weird, huh? All right. So paying yourself is also separating personal and business finance. Okay. One of the biggest challenges I've faced and other client family has faced, especially when we start we start our business, we start our entrepreneurial journey. A lot of times our personal finances is funding. It's starting the business finances. And then trying to separate that gets kind of mucky and icky, right? And having, we talked about having great financial systems and tools in place. Well, making sure you're paying yourself first is essential as well, because now it's starting to separate that. Okay. You'll get to a point where you're no longer dipping into your personal finances to fund your business finances if you start thinking of paying yourself first. Okay. You're paying yourself back for your investment. Having a great financial system in place to help you do that will help track that as well. One of the things in a financial system is you can say how much money did you lend yourself for your business. So say it was $5,000. You can track the profit you've been taking out and paying yourself back to know when you're playing with house money at that point. Get it? Okay, so Steve Jobs says your work is going to fill a large part of your life. Okay. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to love what you do. Well, guess what? Paying yourself is going to help you love what you do, because if anyone's doing it for free, typically they are not happy about it. And I'm not talking about volunteering, because volunteering is a payment for the soul. I'm talking about you are actively working for money, but yet you are not seeing the fruits of your labor. It does kill the soul quite a bit, right? And then you end up not loving what you do. So if you are going to be fulfilled by your work, if you are going to be fulfilled by your business, making sure you're satisfied by compensation is going to be important for you to continue loving what you're doing. Okay. And now let's talk about allocating profits, because this is huge. The mindset shift of making sure that you're paying yourself first versus your expenses first is huge for a lot of people, because we have built up expenses based on our sales revenue. If you sold a $10 widget, most definitely you have figured out a way to spend $10 again, right? It is that Parkinson's law, right? Empty space shall be filled. Bank account and money shall be spent. So that's what has happened to a lot of business owners. And I'm not just talking about startups. I'm talking about seasoned business owners go through the same thing. So one of the ways that my company figured out to get around that is opening up separate bank accounts. So I have bank accounts in various institutions, and they all serve a different purpose, right? If any of you guys have heard of Dave Ramsey has what's called the envelope system. So depending on the purpose of money, if you got an influx of money coming in, let's say, I don't know, $5,000 a month is coming in for your salary, there'll be maybe 10 different envelopes with a, $50 or $500 in each one of them. Each envelope will be for a different purpose. One could be for rent, one could be for gas, one could be for, I don't know, toiletries, one could be for insurance, whatever. Every envelope has its own purpose. Okay. And then you would only spend the money that's in that envelope. The moment that envelope's money is gone, then you either stop spending or you had to take it from another envelope, and then that envelope's budget was reduced for the month. So you didn't go overboard. You didn't pull out your credit card and overcharge money that you don't have in your bank. You were only playing with the money you had in your bank account. Well, opening up separate bank accounts kind of works the same way as the envelope system. Money is coming into one account that I have, and from that money that's coming into one account, money gets transferred out to other accounts for different things. I have accounts for just payroll only. I have accounts for just taxes. I have accounts for just inventory purchases. And so what ends up happening is I have it figured out what my budget is, and that will be the next module we're going to go over. But I figured out a budget that I know how much money I'm spending on particular categories in a given month. And so when money comes in, that money is automatically distributed to the accounts, and they are debited for that purpose only. Okay. And determining the allocation percentages will be completely based on your budget and forecasting. Again, we have an upcoming module that will be going over that in detail with practical application. You'll see how I do it, and you can mimic it if you'd like. And then so making sure you're allocating your expenses upon receipt. What does that mean? So the moment it comes, an expense comes in, right? Or I'm sorry, as soon as money comes in, it is allocated for that purpose. It doesn't just wait and circle around and you just, I'll get to it eventually. No, as soon as it comes in, you allocate it, right? It could be done once a month. It could be done weekly, bi-weekly. It's up to you how systemic you're going to be in its allocation. But once the money comes in, it's allocated right away. But doing regular reviews and adjustments will be important, because again, if you spent all your money in your one envelope because something happened, right? A challenge happened, a downturn happened. So maybe you had to spend all that money in that envelope or in that bank account. Well, you'll have to review and adjust and see if you need to take it from another envelope or another bank account to offset it. Okay. And so just from how to pay yourself first before allocating to your expenses, again, means doing periodic profit distributions. So one of the ways that we like to do it, I'm at this point, I've been doing this for years now, so we're doing it on a monthly basis. But what we end up doing is that when we are dispersing to the accounts for the various allocations, I make sure I look at the sales that came in for the month previous, and right away there's a percentage that goes boom into the profit account. Okay. And it just right away, as I'm just allocating all the other ones, I right away take it and put it into the profit account. And it is a disciplined practice. This is habitual. Okay. You are forming a habit now. There is a muscle memory that you will, or muscle you will be creating in your mindset on doing this on a regular basis. So don't feel bad if you first tried it and it didn't stick. Keep going. Remember, what was it? The other quote. Let's see. Don't watch the clock. Do what it does. Keep going. Okay. So don't be overwhelmed if it didn't happen. Keep going. Keep doing it, because the compounding effect will happen, and you will be able to build this into a habit. Okay. So let me get back to the slide we were on. Breaking down the numbers now. Operating with your means. No, wait. Where were we at? Oh, we were here? Okay, yes. Now we're here. Okay. So managing, remember, it's sales minus profit equals your expenses. Okay. What does that end up happening, or what ends up happening when you do this, is that you have no choice but to learn to operate your business within your means. Okay. Because the sale of $10 came in, you paid yourself $1, which is the profit you wanted to take from it. There's a remaining $9 you will learn how to administrate to pay your expenses. Okay. So how do you do that? Right? Because a lot of times people are like, but my sale was $10. I have $10 in expenses. They absolutely need to pay my $10 of expenses, or else my business crumbles. All right. So let's take this down a little bit. Okay. Categorizing expenses is essential. You have expenses that are nice to have, and then you have expenses that are unnecessary. Okay. It's just like your household budget, right? I've got a pool guy. Okay. It's nice to have him. He's not necessary. I've got a lawn guy. He's cutting my grass. He's doing a great job. It's nice to have him, but he's not necessary. Your business expenses are the same way, right? So categorizing what is essential from what is nice to have to what is not necessary, okay? Categorizing them like that is crucial. Why? Because when it's time for you to eliminate an expense or downgrade an expense to make sure you are staying within your means, you already know which one's the first one you can cut, right? Because the unnecessary will be the first ones to go. If it's an unnecessary expense, ciao, ciao, see you later, hasta la vista, okay? And then if it's nice to have, you can kind of say, okay, well, do I need to have the premium subscription, or can I have the basic subscription? Okay, and getting creative and figuring out if you can find a way to make the nice to have work within your budget, okay? Sometimes negotiating with vendors. I've have an inventory system where I love it and everything, but they were driving up the prices. And it was, I understand inflation, all that other garbage. I get it. But guess what was not inflating was my pocketbook. So I went and I called up the vendor and I said, listen, I really want to stay on board with you guys, but you guys keep jacking up the prices. What can we do here? I need it at this price. And they work with you. Okay. So negotiating with your vendors if you need to stay within a certain price bracket. Automate and streamline. Use those tools, guys. Financial systems. Okay. Use the tools to help you automate things so you're not overpaying. Say if you have a part-time team member on board, you're not, maybe you don't need the part-time team member, okay? Or if you have contractors that you've been paying to do some certain work that can be automated, now you don't have to pay those contractors. So look for ways to streamline and automate your systems. And then do regular expense audits. Okay, we're going to dive a little bit more into this in the next module, but if you guys remember from the finance module, when I showed you profit and loss statements, it was granular, right? You had everything month by month that you could see if prices for things were going up, if you were paying more for gas than you should be, or if maybe you got overcharged on something. If you do regular expense audits, you can catch those little things like that. And then that way, you can make sure either you get a refund or you get your spending back under control, okay? And then reinvest your profits wisely. This is so important, okay? I think one of the biggest mistakes I made when I first started in business was, I considered growth being gaining as much inventory as possible, okay? And this goes to my farmers market folks. This goes to my e-commerce, anyone selling products, right? I think all of us have been in the same boat that we sold a product and we bought maybe 10 of them, right? We have 10 products. So, okay, prime example. I have a great example for you. I have a friend, she's in the farmers market and she sells in local farmers markets. She sells baked goods. And she told me that depending on the market, certain products sell more than others, okay? And so if the chocolate chip cookies sold more in this particular market, but not the cranberry ones, right? She's only going to make more chocolate chip cookies for this particular market. Sound advice, right? But how many more chocolate chip cookies, right? Because every time you're making a cookie, there is physical raw materials like the flour, the chocolate chips, the sugar, all of that goes into making that all costs money. So, and right here it says judicious. I'm going to get this right sooner or later. Judiciously reinvest back into the business. Be specific, right? You're not just because on a whim, oh, this market likes more chocolate chip cookies, so I'm going to make, instead of 5, I'm going to make 30. No, right? You want to be very specific, right? And you want to use your best judgment and say, hey, well, let me do it in small increments, because if I go and make 30 of these cookies, that's going to be more investment of dollars. When I was first starting in business, I was in jewelry. There would be particular style of jewelry that would sell more often than others. So in my head, I said, okay, well, if this style is the most popular one, then I'm going to go and buy a bunch of these beads and a bunch of the components to make this jewelry in bulk, and only have it for this particular item. But what ended up happening is, yes, although this jewelry was selling the most frequently, it didn't match, the velocity of sales did not match this huge purchase of bulk components that I bought. So my money ended up sitting in these bulk components until they got used up and sold over time. Now, had I said, okay, well, this is a popular item, this is selling, let's see the velocity at which it's selling, and let me look at seeing what the lead time is for the components. Oh, these components, I can get them in every 30 days or so. So I really only need between 30 to 60 days worth of inventory for this particular item. So let me just order enough components to satisfy 30 to 60 days, okay? What that does is making sure that my money is not being locked up in erroneous purchases for product, okay? And that happens a lot of times to business owners, is that we get very ambitious when we see the sales. We're like, oh, we got to get a bunch of them and get it at a good price, because the more we buy, the more the price goes down, the higher our profit margins are. But really what ends up happening is that we tie up our money over a period of time, okay? And we're not able to use the money that's tied up in this product to continue to keep inventory in the other items that are selling, okay? And that's how it eats our profit, and that's how our expenses end up matching our sales and not leaving us any leftovers to actually pay ourselves. I hope you guys understood that. So in order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different. Paying yourself first is a new concept. Okay. There's going to be people who agree with you and people who don't agree with you. And I'm going to tell you it's none of their business, anyways. I just know from personal experience and from the experience of others that I've worked with that if we're not paying ourselves and if we're not earning a paycheck, we get burnt out real quickly. We start questioning why we're doing things. We start questioning ourselves and our capabilities and our talents. Our confidence starts plummeting because you feel like you have an unsuccessful business if you can't even afford to pay your own bills. Okay. So be different, right? And then I want you to relish in your profits, okay? Celebrate your financial wins. It took me years to do this. I was in business for 8 years before I ever celebrated any wins. And a lot of it is just I didn't know and I didn't give it importance, but it really did help my mentality and my mindset when I started celebrating my wins. I started taking more trips, with my family. I started doing things that I love to do prior to going into business. It made me feel good to know that, yeah, I was paying myself. My business was doing good enough to be able to pay myself. And that is a win. So, celebrate your wins. And it also is going to help you with financial security, right? You're having your own personal financial buffer, right? It's validating, like I said, your business health. It's going to help you with sustainable growth in your business because not only are you growing your own pockets, but if you are reallocating your expenses correctly and efficiently, it's going to lead to sustainable growth in your company because you can make growth an allocation. Okay. And then take trips, do things to reward yourself and your lifestyle. Okay. It really just feeds your soul. Let's address debt. Okay. I was severely in debt when we first went into business. Um, I think one of the reasons we went into debt was because we were looking at the scenario I told you before was we need to grow the company. In order to grow the company, we need to have more inventory for sale and not stock out of our top sellers. We did not allocate to paying ourselves first. And so you end up living on credit cards for a while. And in order to get out of that, we needed to prioritize the snowball effect, which is knocking them down, right? And so one of the things that we did is as we started paying ourselves, we started knocking down our personal debt that way, right? And that's on the personal side, but you can also do it on the business side. So you're paying yourself first, right? Is to pay your own lifestyle expenses, and your lifestyle expenses could be paying back debt. Well, your business can work the same way. So maybe one of the allocations would be a percentage to knocking down your business debt, right? And doing the snowball effect that way. And then my suggestion would be prioritizing high interest debt first. Okay. Most people like to pay attention to on the screen. Well, I owe 3,000 to this one and 10,000 to that one. You knock the 3,000 first. And I'm going to tell you first. So if your $10,000 with the highest interest will get a sucker. Okay. And then you can go with a smaller one. Some people say start with a small one. You know what? Now thinking about it, it really doesn't matter. If you want, I prioritize high debt first, and the book, Profit First, recommends the same way. But there are other ways of doing it too. There's 3 different ways to skin a cat, right? Or 1,800. But anyway, you can prioritize it however you want, but make sure it is prioritized having debt. Oprah Winfrey, she says, I believe that the only courage anyone ever needs is the courage to follow your own dreams. Most of us went into business because we were following our dreams, right? Our dreams was to work for ourselves, freedom of time, right? Choice. We wanted to be our own boss, figure out our leadership style. Remember, we covered that all in previous workshops. And I love this saying because you just need that courage, right? The only courage you ever need is just to follow your desires, to follow your own dreams. And so I congratulate you, because if you're watching this, that means that you are following your dreams, because you want to make sure you're going to be your own boss and have your own company, and you're going to do it successfully. So let's talk about some of the common objections and myths that I tend to receive about Profit First. Okay. Um, One of them was, it's just another accounting gimmick, or it's just another trendy thing. It's not sustainable. I've been doing it now for the better part of 6 years, right? And it has 100% revolutionized my business by making sure I pay myself first. Um, Another one is, it will stifle growth by taking profit out too early. That's the person who is selling something for $10 and spending $10, right? Because again, that thought process of, I need to reinvest back into my business to grow it. Remember my example of the of jewelry. When I started making better decisions and being very careful of how I decided to reinvest in product, right? I actually grew more than when I did it the other way. Um, only small businesses can benefit from Profit First. Okay, go ask Apple, Microsoft, and all these big Fortune 500 giants that are paying CEOs millions of dollars every single year if they believe in that. Okay. It's overly simplistic and doesn't address complex financial needs. Guys, sometimes the simplest thing is the best, right? Why swim up the creek when you can just go down the creek, path of least resistance? All right. Um, and then the last one is, if I take profit first, I won't have enough money to cover my expenses. Well, we did tackle that already, which is, you just need to learn how to reallocate expenses. The three categories, right? The essentials, it's the nice to have, and it's the unnecessary. Once you categorize every single expense in your budget accordingly, makes it actually pretty easy to make sure, or makes it easy for you to figure out which is the first thing you can cut. So let's talk about some real world case studies, right? So real businesses, real results. So we have Sarah's boutique, right? She has erratic cash flow. So she's, boutiques typically, they sell really good around November, December. They do okay in May, maybe for Mother's Day, and then depending on where they're at, they can actually do okay somewhere in the summer, right? But her cash flow is going to be really all over the place because of the seasonality of her business. And so, even knowing that the business is challenged, right? If they take profit first, um, they're able to actually thrive versus just survive. And budgeting has a lot to do with seasonality too, right? Well, in all of these case studies, but budgeting is going to be huge. And I really can't wait to go through my budgeting workshop with you guys so you can see how to apply this across the board in your business. But going forward, we have Tech Solutions Inc. has very high operational costs, right? So Tech Solutions Inc. is going to have a hard time paying themselves money because they're thinking, oh, I got to pay my expenses, right? Well, going ahead and doing those three segregations of expenses will help Tech Solutions figure out how they can make sure to pay themselves first. Benny's Bakery has stiff competition. So he was thinking, let me go ahead and drop my prices to compete. And if I drop my prices to compete, then I'll sacrifice my profit, or I'll sacrifice paying myself first in order to make sure I drive more sales. Well, that is just a vicious cycle. Benny, if you continue to drop your prices to compete with the other person, then what's going to end up happening is you're just going to keep low prices, no profit, no money to you, and you're going to be working for free. A way to get around that, Benny, is doing value adding, right? So instead of dropping your prices, think about what value you could still add on to your sale to keep it at the same sales price and continue to drive the customer traffic to you, because your competition is just offering one cookie. Maybe you're offering cookie and I don't know, hot tea or something low cost, but people are going to say, oh, well, I'd rather go ahead and get cookie and a drink versus just a cookie alone. You see, so adding value onto your product. Green Earth Landscaping is a seasonal business, just like Sarah's Boutique, erratic cash flow, right? So really being in tune with your budget, and on the high months, you're budgeting in for the low months. And then Nova Consulting Group has high debt. We talked about how to make sure we snowball our debt. So whether it's you're starting with the highest interest rate first, or you're starting with the lowest payment and then taking that payment and paying the higher one, however you do it, but snowballing to make sure you're covering your debt isn't, and having your debt be an allocation in your expense. That's the other thing. So you have debt is now an expense, allocating for that expense. And where does that fall into three? Essential, nice to have, or unnecessary? It falls in an essential. So make sure you're allocating it as such. So Bo Bennett says success is not what you have, but who you are. Absolutely 100% true. As you're going through this profit first approach and you're starting to set into this habit of building your mindset around paying yourself first, understand success is within you, okay? Right? It's not in the things that you have, right? It's not in the materialistic things you have, but it is who you are. Relish in that. Pay yourself first because you're worth it. Now let's talk about resources, okay? Books, right? Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Go pick up that book. It goes over more in detail. It goes over tips and tricks on how to execute, okay? I specifically read the Profit First for e-commerce sellers by Cindy Thompson, and written or partnered up by Cindy Thompson and Mike Michalowicz. But Profit First by Mike Michalowicz alone is very general and can help a wide range of industries. Pick it up, read it, get some tips and tricks, and learn step by step how to allocate profit to you. And I'll just give you one little tip. In the e-commerce book, we're not telling you that you need to take as much profit to pay yourself full time. No, I understand a lot of you right now are working your business as a side hustle, right? So it's passive income, or it's income you're looking at increasing in order to substitute your full-time salary. Okay. So in the beginning stages, when you're selling a product, I gave you an example of a $10 widget paying yourself $1. That's just 10%. Okay. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to look at it as like, I need to replace my $5,000 salary a month. No, if your company is not generating $5,000 a month, there's no way you can replace your salary of $5,000 a month. But what you can do is, if your company is producing $1,000 a month in revenue, you can pay yourself $100, right? And even though it doesn't sound like, oh, that's a long ways away from $5,000, it gives you a starting point, okay? Paying yourself $100, allocating the remaining amount for growth, for and your other expenses, right, will get you to the point where you're not just paying yourself 100, but then it'll be 200, then it'll be 2,000, and then you'll get your goal of 5,000. Okay. Another thing is looking for workshops. There's plenty of small financial business seminars. We're here in Orlando, Florida, and I can't tell you how many different Orlando-based groups are here just to help with finances. So reach out. I said in the last module, this is not, going into business is not a solo job. You will need to get connected with people with knowledge, right? You do not need to know it all. As entrepreneurs, we're all very smart individuals. We know a lot. We can figure things out. But why go down that road of trying to figure things out by yourself if you can utilize and reach out to resources to help you? Okay. So do that. Look for a good mentor if you need to. I've got a couple that I reach out on a regular basis that help me out. Maybe not specifically with finances, but there are things that I can reach out to them for in regards to my business and personal life as well. And then software. Okay. We spoke about financial systems. Look for software that can help align you with that. Most of the samples that I gave you in financial systems will definitely help you with allocating to make sure you're paying yourself profit first. But make sure your software is allocating for profit. And then look, I love the fact that we live in this digital age. There's so many different social media sites out there. There's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Facebook. Shoot, even YouTube's becoming a social media site. So reach out to those supportive communities online and see if they can help you as well. If you're coming across challenges of, hey, how do I segregate my expenses into essential, need, nice to have, and unnecessary, reach out to people. Throw your expenses up there. Be like, hey guys, would you classify this such and such expense as unnecessary or nice to have? And see what people come up with. Okay. So let's talk about taking that leap. Okay. It is a mindset shift. And there will be plenty of times where you sold your widget for 10 bucks, you paid yourself $1, and then at the end you need to take that dollar back to pay your expenses. That will happen in this journey. It's okay. Do not beat yourself up, okay? It is okay. So just know that this is a journey that you will go towards, but the more you do it, more frequently you get accustomed to doing it, you begin to build a muscle into making this a habit. And then it will be second nature. Okay. We talked about going to your resources. So take that leap and remember you're not alone. Get expert advice if you need it and be open to always learning. Okay. There's going to be new ways of doing profit first in the future. So do not close yourself out to one method. There might be more methods. The future depends on what you do today, so take action, guys. Okay? Gandhi said it best. You want a different tomorrow. Well, it depends on what you are going to do today, and make paying yourself a priority, because that's why we've decided to go into business. So let's recap. Okay? We talked about why embracing profit first is helpful, how it will help the mindset, how being consistent will make sure that you're prioritizing yourself, your financial well-being, and it will set you up for long-term business success. And we also talked about allocating profits and addressing debt, right? So how do you allocate profits? I gave you an example. It could be as small as 10%. I started as small as 15% when I started my profit first journey. Okay. My profit first journey was only giving myself 15% of revenue, but I started somewhere. Now, of course, that's grown over time. And what's really helped me is that because we have that profit first mentality on how our business will be paying ourselves, when we strategize for growth, or if we strategize, we want to pay ourselves more in the future, we already know, well, we're paying ourselves this certain percentage. We need to gain this much more in revenue, which means that we need to have this many sales. It's very similar to the practical application I told you in goal setting. Okay. So making sure that you're allocating for profit and also addressing your expenses is crucial to making sure this works out. Okay. Remember, and debt is part of your expenses, and it is an essential. So making sure you tackle that is important too. And then we also went over common objections and myths. We talked about just some things, some quotes that I've come across from people. And it's understandable. Anything new, right, is scary in the beginning, and self-defense mechanisms come up. But we talked about that, and we talked about the myths. So I'm really hopeful that you've really learned how not to be leery about this approach. If you go on YouTube and you look up reviews on the profit first approach, you will see that a lot of people speak very highly about it. So let's talk about homework. Okay. So in every workshop, we end with 7 questions, right? And I like to say you have the ability of answering 1 question a day if you'd like. You can answer all 7 in one day, but really this is for you. You do not have to turn this in. This is really just to get your thought processes and your mind juices flowing, okay? It's really here just to get you immersed into being a successful business owner. Again, if you're looking at starting business, you haven't started yet, you're looking at launching, these questions are going to help get you in the right path and mindset to be successful in your endeavor. If you've already started your business and you've only a few months or a couple of years, these questions are going to help align you to make sure that your foundation is really firm and steady ground, so you can exponentially grow in the near future. So the first question I have is, do you regularly pay yourself? Okay. And regular doesn't mean once you make a sale. No, regular is like, every couple of weeks, once a month. How do you pay yourself? And then how do you determine how to pay yourself? That's another question underneath this one. So if you are paying yourself, how are you determining to pay yourself? Okay. Are you determining to pay yourself because after all your expenses, you had $100 left over? You said, okay, I'll take that $100. Or are you paying yourself because guess what? Your light's about to get shut off and you need to pull money from somewhere. How are you paying yourself? And if you're not regularly paying yourself, I want you to answer the question, why? Second question is, does the way I pay myself contribute to my overall mental health and job satisfaction? Okay. I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this, but I'd like you to answer this one. Okay. Again, authentic, honest answers, guys. Don't put things here that you think you should, or don't put things here that you think I would like to hear. I'm not going to be looking at this. This is for you. How closely is my current compensation strategy aligned with the goals and vision I have for the business? This is a good question, right? A lot of times people are paying themselves by default. It doesn't align with any clear vision or goal that they have. Because they're paying themselves by default, which is, remember, sales minus expenses equals profits. It's a desperation mindset that happens. It's being reactive instead of proactive. So again, authentic answers here. Do I celebrate my efforts regularly? So even though if you're not paying yourself yet, okay, maybe you've paid yourself again by default, meaning whatever was left over, or you haven't made any money yet, you just keep shelling out money. Have you celebrated your efforts? Because even if you're not paying yourself, you're still putting an effort into this business. Celebrate it. And then, have you separated your business and personal needs? Okay. A lot of new startups, okay, a lot of first-time business owners, a lot of just started in the last few months. It is very common to have personal finances mixed in with business. Don't think you are alone in this. I did it. My friends have done it. My husband has done it. We've all done it. Okay. But those need to be accounted for because that is your initial investment. Okay. Your initial investment is every time you swipe your personal card to buy a business need. Okay. So separating those expenses and those transactions is important. And how are you doing that? Right. So have you separated them? Okay. If so, how are you doing it? If you have not separated it, how do you want to do it? Okay. So ask yourself those questions. And what challenges do I face with profit first thinking? The the common challenge I hear about is I can't pay myself first because I have all these other expenses to pay before that. All right. That is the most common challenge. I want you to answer what is the challenge that you have with the profit first thinking, and then I want you to challenge how you can overcome that. Okay. And then what resources do you have for financial guidance? So whether that's a friend who's knowledgeable in the financial world, it could be YouTube videos that you watch online. It could be a Facebook forum, a Reddit forum. It could be a personal mentor. What resources do you have for financial guidance? It doesn't always have to be a physical person, okay? It could be literature. So I want you to write these down. And if you don't have any resources for financial guidance, I would like you to go find 3 right now. That, again, it doesn't have to be a physical person, but it could be literature, it could be a book, it could be a social media forum, or it could be a YouTube channel. But I want you to find 3 resources for financial guidance, because if you are not financially sound in your business, that will lead to the first way your business fails. Okay? And I don't like the word fail, but it's kind of true in this case. All right, guys, that leaves us with our Paying Your First workshop complete. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And let me just tell you, you have questions, you have concerns, you want to reach out to us directly because you have a question that's very specific to your business. www.sageconsultants.com. You can book a one-on-one with us. We have our calendar is open. Or you can reach out to us an email. And you know what, guys? Take a snapshot of your answers. I would love to see your answers on this and send it to us at Sage Consultants. I just love seeing when people do their homework, right? And them having their aha moments while they're going through this homework. So please take a snapshot and send it to us, and reach out to us by email if you have any questions as well, if you don't want to book a consultation. If it's something we can answer by email, we will. If not, we will advise you to book a consultation. So guys, I really hope all of this has been super helpful. And I really, really hope that you got something from this wonderful workshop, right? Because it is so important that profit be your first and foremost thing you're thinking about, because that's just going to build your confidence. It's going to give you and continue letting you have that desire to keep working. And if you need help, okay, please do not hesitate to reach out, www.sageconsultants.com. You can book a one-on-one with us directly, or you can you can send us an email directly. I would love to have a snapshot of your homework. And we do have our monthly webinar. If you are already subscribed as one of our monthly subscribers, you will get our newsletters, and you will get our monthly one-on-one. Well, not one-on-one, it will be in a classroom setting, but you will have direct access to us as well. So I suggest, if you don't want to reach out to us as a personal consultation or email, write down your questions that you might have, and then you can address it with us on our monthly webinar. And last but not least, business is fun. Kristen and I have a great time recording Books and Booze on YouTube. It is our podcast where we are highlighting one book a month. That's all around business optimization, mindset optimization, and just sharing it with some good booze and having a good time. Business doesn't have to be stuffy. It doesn't have to be all corporate. It can be fun. That's why we're doing it. And we will see you on the next workshop. Thank you, guys. Love you, and have some fun.